Hi guys, welcome! In this video, we'll talk about the skills of Hollgrehenn, which is the new hero class coming this month in Ragnarok Mobile Eternal Love. Hollgrehenn can be an offensive or defensive hero. When built offensively, he can deal continuous physical damage to enemies around him. And when built defensively, he can greatly reduce the incoming damage he receives. He also has skills that can affect the refinement level of the gears of both allies and enemies in battle. In this guide, we'll explore his skill mechanics and analyze his pros and cons in both PvE and PvP. Alright, without further ado, let's begin. To unlock the new Hollgrehenn hero class, you need to reach a Tier 3 mechanic job class and use a job change voucher in the hero class interface. His max job level is 83 and his skills can be improved using runes. The first aspect of Hollgrehenn's skills that we'll look at is his core passive skill, which is called the #1 Blacksmith. At max level, there is a 100% chance to randomly increase the refinement level of one of his left side gears and weapon by +1 for 30 seconds every time he performs a hammer swing animation. Hollgrehenn has 4 skills which will swing his hammer and trigger his core passive, and these are Hammer of Destruction and Focus Mode, which are both damaging skills, and Lucky Refining and Craftsman Heart, which are both buff skills. What's good about his passive is that it can actually exceed +15 refinement level, granting more refined physical reduction and refined physical attack. At level 4, his passive will have an additional effect which will be triggered if all his armor pieces have +12 refinement or higher, wherein his physical and magic defense cannot be ignored by enemies. This means that when his offhand, armor, garment, and footgear are all refined to +12 or higher, the enemies Ignore Def and M-Def will not work against Hollgrehenn. So aside from getting more refined physical reduction, he'll also have higher Def and M-Def compared to other classes, making him more tanky. At max level 7 core passive, when all his weapon and accessories have a refinement level of +17 or higher, his refined attack will be multiplied by his attack % modifier. Refined attack gives a significant boost in damage in PvP, so this can somewhat improve his damage even with a tanky equipment set. Personally, I think a level 4 core passive is enough if you want to play him more of a tank utility role. Next, let's take a look at Hollgrehenn's offensive skills. First, we have Hammer of Destruction, which deals physical damage to all enemies within a 4-meter radius around himself after performing a hammer swing animation. It has 2000 physical attack multiplier, which I think is rather low. But with the related star rune, its final damage can increase by up to 4% for every weapon refinement level increase caused by his core passive. Thus, getting a high value for this rune is essential if you want to reach his highest DPS potential. You may also use Elemental Converters, Elemental Axes, Aspersia, and Magnum Break to change the element of his attacks. Aside from dealing damage, Hammer of Destruction also has a chance to inflict a negative effect on other players, wherein all their equipment and headwear refinement will be reduced by 1 for 15 seconds. The base chance is 20%, and it can increase by 1% for every 10 points that Hollgrehen's luck is higher compared to the enemy. As an example, if the difference in luck between Hollgrehenn and the enemy is 100 points, there will be a 30% chance to trigger the refinement reduction effect. This is one of the reasons why Hollgrehenn needs high luck in his attribute distribution. Next, we have Blazing Anvil, which is a long-range attack skill that deals physical damage to all enemies in a single direction. Aside from having higher physical attack multiplier, the damage formula also accounts for his offhand refinement level, making its final damage significantly higher than that of Hammer of Destruction. Its element is also convertible, similar to Hammer of Destruction. In addition, it has a chance to inflict a negative effect on players and monsters, which lasts for 10 seconds. For players, their weapon's refinement level can be forcibly reduced to +3. While for monsters, it reduces a monster's final damage by 30%. The base chance is only 30%, but it can increase based on the difference between Hollgrehenn and his enemy's luck stat, and also with the related star rune. Hence, with a 100-point luck difference and a max value star rune, Blazing Anvil will have a 70% chance to trigger the negative effect. Although it deals huge damage and has a high chance to trigger a negative effect, Blazing Anvil has a pretty long cooldown of 7 seconds, so it's not spammable. It also has an anvil throw animation, so it will not trigger his core passive. Another problem is that it has a narrow area of effect, so it will be quite difficult to hit moving targets. Last for his damaging skills is Focus Mode, which will be his primary damaging skill. It is a channeling AoE skill that deals physical damage every 0.6 seconds to enemies within 4 meters for up to 7 times. It inherits 100% of the damage of Hammer of Destruction as well as its refinement level reduction negative effect. Its element is convertible and every hammer swing can trigger his core passive skill. In addition, there's a 50% hit correction in Focus Mode, making it easier to deal damage against high flee players even with low dex allotment. However, your movement speed will be fixed at 100%, which cannot be negated by wearing a Moonlight Flower star card. This fixed limit can only be removed if the Extreme Exercise buff is active while in Focus Mode. There's also a related S rune which grants up to 50% abnormal status resist while in Focus Mode, which will help reduce the chance of getting interrupted while channeling. Hollgrehenn also has a passive debuff skill called Hyperthermia that triggers when his skills deal damage to enemies. Upon hit, there's a 50% chance that the enemy will be stunned for 3 seconds, and if the enemy is immune to stun, then it will instead inflict a deceleration effect, reducing their movement speed by 30% for 5 seconds that can stack up to 3 times. In other words, Hollgrehenn has 50% chance of either stunning or slowing down enemies when dealing damage with his skills. Before we continue on to the next set of skills, I'd like to give special thanks to the sponsor of this video, Smile.One. Smile.One is an international game top-up center which has been in business for almost a decade. They have hundreds of partnerships with game developers including Ragnarok Mobile, so they can offer cheaper BCC and monthly premium versus in-game prices. Smile.One top-up is available in many countries across all servers, and there are various payment methods you can choose from. Here in the Philippines, I can pay easily via GCash, BPI, or 7-Eleven outlets and receive the BCC instantly. Please do check out Smile.One's pricing and payment methods using my exclusive link in the description box below. Next, let's take a look at his active buff skills. First is Fairy Furnace, which is his only skill that has variable cast time. Upon use, it grants himself these 3 buffs lasting for 30 seconds. First, there's a 60% chance to burn nearby enemies. Second, it reflects 15% of the fire element damage received to the attacker. And third, his fire element damage will be boosted by 50%. Furthermore, with this S rune, he can gain up to 10% physical penetration when using fire element attacks. This means that using Flame Heart Elemental Converter or a Fire Axe as weapon will be the best for improving Hollgrehenn's damage output. Second is Extreme Exercise, which is a buff that increases both final damage and final damage reduction if your gears exceed plus 15 refinement. It grants 3% final damage increase for every refinement level beyond plus 15 for weapon and accessories, and 3% final damage reduction for every refinement level beyond plus 15 for armor. It also adds a debuff to enemies inflicted with refinement reduction effect, wherein they will be forced to auto-attack for 1 second, which is like a mini taunt effect. It has a pretty short duration of 10 seconds and a fixed cooldown of 30 seconds. Third is Craftsman's Heart, which turns Hollgrehenn and one of his teammates into steel for 10 seconds. This undispellable buff will boost both their melee and range physical damage reduction by 60% and will prevent any of their equipment and headwear from being destroyed or stripped. Thus, you can opt to not wear the Eggshell Bew headgear and the Year of Necklace relic. The only drawback is that it will limit their movement speed to a maximum of 150%. But with this S rune, the movement speed limit can be increased to up to 180%. If you have a Moonlight Flower star card in your shoes, then this limit shouldn't be of any concern. And last is Lucky Refining, which is a party buff that increases the refinement level of the armor and headgear of teammates within 15 meters by 1 for every 50 luck. It also triggers his core passive as Hollgrehenn will swing his hammer 3 times while casting this skill. The maximum increase in refinement it can give to teammates is up to plus 18. In addition, if all of the teammates' armor and headgear are refined to at least plus 15, an additional 10% physical and magic reduction will be obtained. This buff lasts for 20 seconds, but it can be prolonged to up to 28 seconds with this star rune. Next, let's take a look at his passive skills. First is Blacksmith Fortune, which increases Hollgrehen's damage based on the amount of Zenny he has. For every 1 million Zenny in his account, his damage can increase by 1%, which has an upper limit of 50%. But when fighting against monsters, the upper limit is raised to 300%. Hence, you need to save 300 million Zenny all the time to enjoy the max of this passive in PvE. Second is Refined Blood, which boosts Hollgrehen's Refined Attack and Sustain. He will gain 30 Refined Attack for each additional refinement level on his equipment, and whenever he reduces the enemy's equipment refinement level or attacks a boss monster, he will restore 5% of his max HP. However, I think this HP restore effect will not be a stable source of sustain in small-scale PvP, as he'll have difficulty hitting opponents with his low mobility. And third is Lucky Card, which boosts Hollgrehen's luck by 50 points when equipped with a cart. It also boosts his physical and magic defense depending on the amount of luck he has. As an example, since my Hollgrehenn character has 311 luck, then this passive will grant me 620 physical defense and 310 magic defense. Lastly, Hollgrehenn has the ability to craft various special alloys using the Alloy Smelting skill. The first 4 alloys will increase your Wind, Earth, Water, or Fire Elemental Armor level by 1 for 60 seconds. Elemental Armor level is a new game mechanic that will be implemented in the next episode. Basically, a higher Elemental Armor level will reduce the corresponding Elemental Restraint coefficient by 0.25 at level 2, 0.375 at level 3, and 0.5 at level 4. Next is the Serenity Alloy, which reduces your variable cast time by 100% for 60 seconds, so this can be used as an alternative to the Elf's Piccolo relic. Next is the Holy Alloy. This makes your buffs undispellable for 30 seconds, so this can be used as an alternative to the Braggy's Mead relic. Next is a Spike Alloy, which grants both anti-fatal and damage reflection effects for 10 seconds. Among Hollgrehen's special alloys, I think this will be the most utilized. And last is the Lucky Alloy, which increases the refinement level of all equipment and headwear by 1 for 120 seconds, so this can be used as an alternative to the Valence Jade relic. The production success rate depends on his skill level and his own dex and luck. When Hollgrehenn uses these special alloys, the duration is increased by 50%. These alloys will definitely be a game changer in PvP. To summarize, Hollgrehenn can be really strong regardless if you build him as DPS in PvE or a tank in PvP. Hollgrehenn has good defensive abilities which can prevent his def and M-def from being ignored, reflect fire element damage received, prevent any equipment and headgear from being destroyed or removed, and greatly reduce any type of damage he receives. He also has debuffs which can reduce the refinement of his enemy's equipment and headwear, inflict burn and stun status, and even reduce the enemy's movement speed. His offensive abilities is also unmatched as he has 3 damaging skills with buffs that improve his physical damage, refined attack, physical penetration, and fire element damage. Lastly, he can craft special alloys which grant valuable buffs. But of course, there are still disadvantages. First, he has no healing skill as a tank. Although he has a mechanism to restore his lost HP with the Refined Blood passive, the healing amount is almost negligible. If building him as DPS, he cannot trigger the lifesteal effect of Cobalt Leader card and Wingstaff Extract for sustain. There's also an issue with his SP sustain as his skills have high SP cost, inherently low int, and no skills which help restore his SP. Second, the damage frequency is much lower compared to meta classes like Rune Master and Genos. Focus Mode can only deal damage every 0.6 seconds and has pretty long cooldown after use. The AoE is also smaller compared to other channeling skills like Tyrant's Carnage Capoeira. And third, he lacks mobility as he does not have any displacement skill and even have some skills which limit his movement speed. Although he can wear a Moonlight Flower star card to counter his mobility issues, he doesn't have an Endure skill that can prevent flinching, so it might be better to use an Edgar star card instead. Overall, Hollgrehenn's skill set is really unique and I think many players will find it valuable to unlock him. How about you guys? Will you be playing Hollgrehenn in the future? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll also be releasing a full guide on his PvE DPS build in another video, so stay tuned for that. Alright, that's it for this video guys. Don't forget to like if you enjoyed watching this guide. If you're new here, I would love for you to consider subscribing by hitting the red subscribe button down below. I would love to have you back. Thank you for watching and see you in our next episode.